Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now I'm going to continue our discussion still under chapter 2, risk management from a science perspective. And this time I'm going to explain on objectives of risk management and risk management process. Okay, to recap what we have discussed before, what is the meaning of risk management? Risk management is a process that identifies loss exposures faced by an organization and selects the most appropriate techniques for treating such exposures. Okay, so in general, risk management is a process, an approach that identifies loss exposures that faced by any corporation, any organization, any institution, and because of that, they select the most appropriate techniques for treating such exposures. A loss exposure is any situation or circumstance in which a loss is possible regardless of whether a loss occurs. For example, a plant that may be damaged by an earthquake or an automobile that may be damaged in a collision. So risk management consists of processes, methods, and tools for managing risks in a project. The following should be built into an risk management exercise. For example, 1. Assess continuously what could be wrong. Meaning, we need to assess continuously what could be the risk. Second, determine which risks are important to deal with. Here, we need to do prioritization based on the impacts, the risk give to the company or to the business. Then third, implement strategies. Once we identify, we determine what are the risks, what are the risks that give the most effect or impact to the company. So we prioritize, and once we prioritize, we implement strategies to deal with those risks in order to mitigate the risk. And last one, monitor and control by tracking whatever plan, whatever strategies that we have done before, and to look at the impacts or the effects of the plans. Objectives of risk management. Okay, what are the objectives of risk management? Risk management has objectives before and after a loss occurs. Okay, for pre-loss objectives, before the loss happens, what are the objectives? Among them are to prepare for potential losses in the most economical way. If the business, if the institution, if the organization are unable to avoid the loss, they have to face the loss. So by having risk management, be able to reduce the loss, in a most economical way. For example, if a business unable to operate during COVID-19 pandemic, so they have backup plans by having business through online, by having e-commerce as their platform, like Shopee, Lazada, Facebook. So they still can promote the products and sell the products through online. And then second, to reduce anxiety. So by having risk management, by having strategies on how to face the loss or face the problems, face the risk, the company able to reduce anxiety among employees, among staff, among workers. What are the anxiety? For example, anxiety of losing jobs because they cannot operate as usual. For example, if they have certain business that they can operate from home, so they still can get the products to be sold, or they still can liaise with their customers, and the project still can be continued, even not as smooth as usual, but still they don't stop operating 100%. Yeah. Okay, and then third, meet any legal obligations. For example, if they know already, they have to observe certain requirements, they have to observe certain standards, regulations. So they observe all kinds of requirements before they being penalized by the authorities. Yeah, like the restaurant owners, they have to make sure now, even they are allowed to operate their business, they have to make sure that all the SOPs are followed, are observed. Why? Because if they don't follow the SOP, the possibility that they will be fined or will be penalized by the authorities is higher or are higher. Yeah. So by having all kind of risk mitigation, so they able to reduce the loss of being penalized. Yeah. Okay, what are the objectives of risk management after loss occurs? Okay, so among them are, first, in order to make sure that the company, the business, the corporations, the institutions able to survive and able to continue operating, even with reduction of products, reduction of operation, but they still able to continue operating. Third, by having this happens, okay, they're able to continue operating, they're able to get stability of earnings, and by having stability of earnings, they're able to make sure that the company able to develop, able to grow in the future. And lastly, able to minimize the effects, the impacts that a loss will have on other persons and also society. Okay, what are the steps in risk management process? So what are the risk management processes? Okay, as we have discussed before, before we able to identify the risk, we need to first of all decide what are the objectives, what are the aims, what are the goals of our business. Yeah. Only then after that we able to identify what are the potential losses, okay, in order to make sure we able to achieve the goal. Okay, once we able to identify the potential losses, we need to measure and analyze the loss exposures. Okay, we need to measure which one that will give higher risk and which one will give lower risk. Yeah, and we need to prioritize to which that give more risk, to the company or to the business compared to the least one. Okay, then once we measure already, so we able to prioritize. Okay, so we need to select the appropriate combination of techniques for treating the loss exposures. Okay, depends on the levels. Okay, whether it is high or low risk. And after that, we need to implement what we have planned, what we have strategized for the company, and monitor the risk management program, whether it is successful or not. Key steps in managing risk. In facing and managing risk, several steps can be implemented. Like risk reduction, risk sharing, risk avoiding, or risk controlling. Okay, like this photo that I've shared to you. Okay, if you have a project, so first of all, you will do a survey. Okay, you will determine whether you are able to take the project or not. If, for example, you are offered to take a project. Okay, if you find that the project is too risky for you, so you avoid from taking the project. It's okay. I won't take it. Let others take the project. Okay. I can't afford it. And in that scenario, okay, if you think, I think I can do it, but I have to do something in order to mitigate the risk. So you will ask somebody to put something at the bottom, okay, in order for you to jump safely. Okay, you put trampoline or whatever, a safety net. So then that's how you mitigate the risk. Yeah. And if you find that you want to take the business, but you are not brave enough to do it alone by yourself, so you transfer the risk. Okay, you pay somebody. Hello, okay, I need your help. Can you do it for me? I will pay you. Okay, so you transfer the risk to another person or another party. Okay, so then if the another party accept to do it for you with a certain amount of payment, so then that person jump, yeah, on behalf of you. Okay, or if you yourself think that you can do it by yourself, so you just accept it. Yeah, so that's how a person or company managing their risk. So in terms of loss exposure, how to identify loss exposure? What types of loss exposure that we need to identify? Okay, there are so many. Among them are property loss exposures, liability loss exposures, business income loss exposures, human resources loss exposures. For example, like you hiring wrong people, okay, wrong personnel, okay, to do the job, okay, so or you hire wrong contractors, okay, to develop houses for you. So this among the human resources loss exposures. Then crime loss exposures, okay, because you do certain crimes, okay, for example, involved with graft or bribery, or mismanagement, misuse of powers, so being caught for that kind of offences, so you need to pay the cost. And then employee benefit loss exposures, foreign loss exposures, intangible property loss exposures, and failure to comply with the government rules and regulations exposures. So how we need to identify loss exposures? So risk managers have several sources of information to identify loss exposures. For example, based on risk analysis, questionnaires and checklists. Okay, for example, in order to make sure or in order to know whether the customers satisfied or not with the services offered by the banks. So the banks ask the customers, okay, or the companies ask the users to answer a short survey, okay, in order to know to what extent the customers satisfy with the services. If they don't satisfy, so the company need to take certain actions, yeah, to rectify it. Physical inspection, okay, in order to make sure that the factory is safe to operate, okay, or the machines are safe to be used, yeah, so need to do a physical inspection. Cannot just depends on the verbal promises only, okay. And then looking at the flow charts in terms of how the work flow, yeah, happens, okay, meaning that how the job is done, so based on the flow charts. Then financial statements, you need to make sure that the performance, they're able to double up the performance from last year to this year, okay, or how they need to maintain, or they can maintain the performance. And then historical loss data also very beneficial, okay, very important in order for them to avoid, okay, facing the same loss again. So industry trends and market changes can create new loss exposures. For example, economic recession. If they cannot manage it properly, so of course they enable to make sure that the company able to sustain in longer time. So measure and analyze loss exposures. How to measure and analyze loss exposures? First, need to estimate for each type of loss exposure based on loss frequency and loss severity metrics. Like loss frequency, the probable number of losses that may occur during some time period, or a certain period. Loss severity, the probable size of the losses that may occur, whether it's severe or not. Loss frequency, how many times it occur. Severity, loss severity, whether it's very severe or not. If it's very severe, so they need to take a very serious action to tackle it. Then second, rank exposures by importance. So this is how they prioritize the risk. From the highest risk to the lowest risk. Then third, loss severity is more important than loss frequency, because the maximum possible loss is the worst loss that could happen to the firm during its lifetime. The probable maximum loss is the worst loss that is likely to happen. So if we compare loss severity and loss frequency, loss severity is more important. Because if we are unable to control it, it will give a huge impact, very bad impact to the company or to the business. Selecting the appropriate technique, risk control. So how do we select the appropriate technique? Using risk control. Risk control refers to techniques that reduce the frequency and severity of losses. What are the methods of risk control? The methods of risk control include, first, avoidance. Avoidance, a certain loss exposure is never acquired or undertaken, or an existing loss exposure is abandoned, meaning you don't take it at all. For example, you know that the machine is very good for you, for your company, but there's nobody that able to operate the machine. So in order to avoid severe loss, a huge loss, so you just abandon it. You just avoid it at all without buying it. Then second one, loss prevention. Measures that reduce the frequency of a particular loss. For example, installing safety features on hazardous products. You know that the product there is the possibility or likelihood of hazard happens, so you install safety features on it. For example, car. In order to make sure that the parents have peace of mind while leaving the baby or toddler behind. So the company, the manufacturer, car manufacturer, build up or embed the auto lock feature to the car to make sure that the driver, the parents, able to control the safety of the car by locking the car altogether. And then third, loss reduction. Measures that reduce the severity of a loss after it occurs. For example, by installing an automatic sprinkler system into the building. For example, if there's fire happen, so by having the automatic water sprinkler, this able to reduce the loss. If it cannot be avoided, so the loss can be reduced, meaning by having that the fire can be controlled as soon as possible, and at the same time it reduces the loss of the in terms of furniture, in terms of machines, and other things. Then selecting the appropriate technique using risk balancing. What is risk financing? Risk financing refers to techniques that provide for the payment of losses after they occur. So methods of risk financing include first, retention. For example, the firm retains part or all of the losses that can result from a given loss. What is retention? Retention handling the unavoidable risk internally, either because insurance cannot be purchased or it is too expensive for the risk, or because it is more cost effective to handle the risk internally. As because of that, the firm decided to retain part or all of the losses that can result from a given loss. Meaning, if the loss happens, the company will absorb the loss, partly or totally. Maybe because of the amount of the loss not really huge. Okay. Second, non-insurance transfers, a method other than insurance by which a pure risk and its potential financial consequences are transferred to another party. For example, if you buy certain machines, you buy certain appliances, so they come with warranty. Meaning that within that the time period, 3 years warranty, 1 year warranty, so you transfer the risk to the for example, retailers, okay, or the suppliers, to make sure that the machines working well during the time without paying extra cost. Okay, and third one, commercial insurance. This happens with appropriate, and this happens or appropriate for low probability, high severity loss exposures. For example, the risk manager selects the coverages needed and policy provisions, okay, based on that probability, okay, by having insurance covered. Okay, for example, like the company buy a family medical plan, okay, for the employees, okay, to make sure that the employees and the family member of the employees able to get a very comfortable protection, by the company, okay, if that they face with certain injuries or sickness. Okay, risk management metrics. Type of loss. Okay, in order to do the best decision, or to make a best decision, we can refer to these metrics. Okay, loss frequency, loss severity, and what is the appropriate risk management technique can be used. Okay, if the loss frequency is low and the loss severity is low, so the appropriate risk management technique that can be used is retention. Okay, and second, if the loss frequency is high and loss severity is low, so loss prevention and retention can be used. And then third, if the loss frequency is low and loss severity is high, so transfer technique can be used. And last one, if the loss frequency is high and the loss severity also high, so it's better to avoid the risk altogether. And then implement and monitor the risk management program. Implementation of a risk management program begins with a risk management policy statement that outlines the firm's objectives and policies. Second, educates top-level executives. Third, gives the risk manager greater authority. Fourth, provides standards for judging the risk manager's performance. A risk management manual may be used to first describe the risk management program and train new employees. So, risk management manual is important to describe the risk management program that the company has, and also to train new employees. If they don't have the risk management manual, so it's very hard for the new employees to know and understand the risk management program that the business has. A successful risk management program requires active cooperation from other departments in the firm. They cannot just depend or rely on risk managers only, because every person, every department has their own risk. So it is impossible to make sure that risk managers able to control everything in the organizations. So because of that, every individual, every person, every worker, every staff, every department has to take their responsibilities to manage the risk. The risk management program should be periodically reviewed and evaluated to determine whether the objectives are being attained. That's why we need to always monitor the impact or the effects of strategies or the plans that we have implemented to reduce the risk or to mitigate the risk, in order to make sure that the objectives of the company is successful, can be achieved. The risk manager should compare the costs and benefits of all risk management activities to make sure that the risk management plan is the best plan for the company. Now we look at the benefits of risk management. What are the benefits of risk management? There are so many benefits by having risk management in a company. By having risk management, among them, it enables the firm to attain its pre-loss and post-loss objectives more easily. Like we have discussed before, what are the pre-loss and what are the post-loss objectives. A risk management program can reduce a firm's cost of risk. Then reduction in pure loss exposures allows a firm to enact an enterprise risk management program to treat both pure and speculative loss exposures. And then society also benefits from this risk management program because both direct and indirect losses are reduced. Risk management. What is personal risk management? Personal risk management refers to the identification of pure risk faced by an individual or family and to the selection of the most appropriate technique for treating such risk. In this case, the same principles applied to corporate risk management apply to personal risk management as well. Example of risk management failures. One of the examples actually is the collapse of Barings Bank by Nick Leeson. Barings Bank, which was founded in 1762, was the oldest merchant bank in London. However, this 230-year-old bank collapsed due to risk management failure. You can read by yourself. There are so many articles telling you the story about this. And also, you also can watch video clips in YouTube. There are so many video clips telling about this story. These are the references for this chapter. Before I end this video, I would like to read a quote by Richard Branson. Every risk is worth taking as long as it's for a good cause and contributes to a good life. With that, thank you. Assalamualaikum.